Welcome back, guys. So just yesterday we talked about the situation unfolding in the UK with new regulations forcing people to give up their personal information such as face scans and credit card information, all under the guise of trying to protect children. We'll revisit this in a second for anyone who may be out of the loop on that situation and the context there. We'll briefly take a look at just a few paragraphs on this article explaining what's been going on. But first, I want to get right to the new situation, as similar stuff is actually unfolding right here in the US. As just hours ago today, a lot of people are talking about this tweet. It says, "The Kids Online Safety Act is the US equivalent of the EU's Digital Services Act and UK's Online Safety Act. If passed, it will lead to digital identity, total de-anonymization of the internet, and massive censorship." It was reintroduced to Congress May 2025. And indeed, we can see this over on congress.gov, S.1748, what they once again call the Kids Online Safety Act. Although it's currently only in the introductory stage, this is also clearly not good news, especially with all that's currently unfolding across the world. Various governments trying to seize as much control over the internet and individuals as they possibly can, and payment processing corporations trying to censor things and also achieve as much control as they possibly can too. And groups like Collective Shout over in Australia propagating this stuff with the payment processors, and we can see what are governments doing. Are they trying to protect people and fight this stuff? No, they seem to love it. Of course, they'll try and frame it like they're protecting people. Yeah, they're trying to frame it like they're protecting children, but we all know better. Admittedly, there's not too much information out just yet about the specifics of the bill, but I think we can reasonably presume what this is about. And so let's briefly hop back over to vocal.media, this article we started with about what's happening in the UK. We'll just read like these paragraphs right here probably. So it says, "The UK Online Safety Act is out and it's already causing havoc. In a digital era where privacy is already on life support, the UK's long-anticipated Online Safety Act has officially become law, and its real-world consequences are emerging faster than many expected. Championed by the government as a framework to protect children and users from harmful content, critics argue the act is less about safety and more about surveillance. Now that the law is active, its effects are starting to ripple through UK internet spaces, and the concerns are loud, urgent, and increasingly justified." We'll take a look at this section too, actually. This is also very important. So they say, "Under the guise of reducing anonymity and curbing abuse, the law empowers Ofcom and approved platforms to require government-issued ID, facial recognition data, or other personal information to verify user identities, even on apps or forums not traditionally considered quote-unquote high risk. And here's the kicker. The data doesn't just sit on your phone or with the app. It's a part of a centralized, regulated system. In other words, if you want to use the internet in the UK like a normal person, you may have to dox yourself to the government first. That's a level of exposure many civil liberty advocates say crosses a line. We were told this is about child safety," says Priya Merton, a digital rights lawyer with the UK-based group Open Privacy Alliance. "But what we're seeing is the creation of an infrastructure that can track, monitor, and punish speech. Arrests for online speech." Merton points to several disturbing cases already emerging in the law's wake. One involves a 19-year-old arrested in Birmingham after being reported for quote-unquote offensive comments on a private Discord server. Although the original context was a heated argument over politics, the content was flagged via moderation algorithms now required under the new law and forwarded to authorities. "We're witnessing the criminalization of speech," Merton says, "and the worst part, the infrastructure now exists to make these arrests easier. And that's already proliferating in the UK. For example, take a look at this top post from 20 hours ago on the subreddit UK Politics titled "Elite Police Squad to Monitor Anti-Migrant Posts on Social Media." Top response reading, "Dear the police officer reading this, if your job is to waste my tax money by sitting on your fat arse scrolling through Reddit and Twitter to keep an eye on people realizing that the government of the last 30 years have lost the plot and that they'd rather their community be safe, the HR advisor who described you as elite was only doing it to spare your feelings. Go transfer to a county line/SA gang crackdown division if you want to actually live up to why you wanted to become a police officer instead of just doing easy work." The comment right below that saying, "We should deport all migrants who have come illegally. Any legal immigrants who commit crimes should be deported. Immigrants should not be able to claim any benefit until they obtain ILR, at which point it is determined on their contributions. Migrants have no access to social housing, no hotels, no spending money, nothing. NHS surcharge to continue." And you gotta wonder if that person's gonna get a knock on their door from the elite police force over that comment. Another top comment reading, look, I'm not a fan of the way some people talk about immigration, but can we just stop with the authoritarianism, please? If government actually showed they cared about people equally, properly, and not just play lip service to the notion while constantly doing things that prove otherwise, actually care about our boys not doing well in school, for example, for genuine reasons instead of demonizing them, actually care that houses cost stupid money, that the NHS is on its knees and actually fix stuff, people would have less reason to scapegoat the blame of their hardships onto anyone else. If life here is actually good and enjoyable for people in the UK, then people would be happier, and their posts would reflect that. The angry posts, regardless of the rationale or ideology behind them, is indicative of dissatisfaction and unhappiness, if not outright suffering, even and when blame is being misplaced. Fix that for people, they'll be happier. Then you all wouldn't need to go crazy with frankly expensive surveillance and speech suppression. And similar stuff unfolding in Australia. 8 days ago from our Australian politics, this post titled, Face, Age, and ID checks using the internet in Australia is about to fundamentally change. The article itself says the Albanese government trumpeted the passage of its legislation banning under 16s from social media, which will come into effect in December, but new industry codes developed by the tech sector and e-safety commissioner Julie Inman Grant under the Online Safety Act will probably have much larger ramifications for how Australians access the internet. Measures to be deployed by online services could include looking at your account history or using facial age assurance and bank card checks, identity checks using IDs such as driver's licenses to keep children under 16 off social media will also apply to logged-in accounts for search engines from December under an industry code that came into force at the end of June. The code will require search engines to have age assurance measures for all accounts. And where an account holder is determined to be aged under 18, the search engine would be required to switch on safe search features to filter out content such as adult material from search results. 6 more draft codes being considered by the e-safety commissioner would bring similar age assurance measures to a wide range of services Australians use every day, including app stores, AI chatbots, and messaging apps. A top comment on this one saying, simply put, this policy will be impossible to enforce. Age verification every time I use a search engine like Google. Okay, so the major corporate-owned search engines sign up 1%, and comply. That leaves all the other options that I'm not going to go listing, but they are all browser alternatives that focus on user information and data protection. As far as I'm concerned, what's at stake and what should be considered is being ignored. Why is it that anytime our government proposes new legislation or laws to supposedly protect us and keep us safe, we never ever discuss the possible abuse of power that could be conducted if we ever faced a government that was authoritarian and oppressive? It's not about if you think it could happen or will happen. It's always a possibility. It's about the risk involved. We have already, over the last 20 plus years, shot ourselves in the foot as society on a global scale. We just hand new powers to governments on the promise of a safer society and the necessary to protect ourselves. When are we going to wake up and realize more laws, regulations are rarely the answer for long-term safety? Enforcement of what's already in place and has been working for hundreds of years is what's required. It's that simple. Yes, this technology that's newish in the terms of hundreds of years, but still the same as it's always been. More government regulation is rarely the answer. Informing and education, supplying us with information. Regulate the industries that peddle the very things you're trying to protect our children from, but you don't do that because lobby groups with huge endless pools of wealth lobby you not to. Meanwhile, you regulate, enforce, and enslave the people and allow the corporate sector to exploit us, unhindered by regulation. It's time government got back to protecting the people from being exploited and started regulating the corporate world. But then again, who would regulate a group of people who constantly stuff fat wads of cash into pockets and whisper in your ears what should be done? Like I said in my coverage yesterday, it's tragic what's happening to the internet, and all of these similar measures being implemented around the globe around the same time frame, it's highly suspicious. It's almost like the people pulling the strings are not even trying to hide their nefarious agenda. It's like they're indirectly bragging about it even. But let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed my coverage, please consider liking and subscribing. Appreciate ya. I'll see you in the comments and in the next one.